Substantiate, to establish by proof or competent evidence. Welcome to the very first episode of the Substantiate podcast. I've put a lot of work into making this happen, and I'm excited for the very first episode. On the Substantiate podcast, every week I discuss a new hypothetical matchup with a guest. That means that I'm going to take rivalries and give them new competitions to compete in. I'm the host, William Glasser, and this week I'm joined by my amazing cousin, Stuart Lieblein. Stuart helped me and advised me on the concept and idea of the podcast, and I thought he would be a great first guest.
First of all, I am honored to be on the first podcast of something that is extremely entertaining and has a tremendous value, I think, out of people who like podcasts in the future. It's an innovative idea. It's thought-provoking. It's evocative. It's provocative. And myself, I'm 52 years old. I am William's mother's cousin, first cousin. I consider William a prodigy. I consider William a nephew, even though he's my first cousin's son. My background is I'm an entrepreneur. I've operated some successful businesses. I have a sports background. I was an All-American high school lacrosse player, played for a national championship collegiate team. I'm quite interested in detailed arguments about different athletes as they cross different eras. And I was happy to be here. And I think he's come up with some amazing subject matters that would entertain all sports fans across the spectrum.
Thank you for coming on. Make sure to follow us at substantiatepod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And you can go to our website, substantiatepod.com. I'm so excited that we're finally doing this. Ready to get into it?
Ready to go. Let's do it.
This week's matchup is Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls versus Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors in golf. If you do not know much about either player, we're going to summarize the best accomplishments of both careers.
Well, if we start off with Michael Jordan, I mean, he's just a human hits list. I mean, the guy was a phenomenal enough basketball player in high school to be recruited by one of the best teams in the country, UNC Chapel Hill and Dean Smith. He flourished there. Everybody knows in 1982 about his winning shot close to the buzzer to win the national championship for them as a freshman to take the final shot. Spent 3 years there, went to the NBA prior to graduating, got recruited to the Bulls, went on to be the greatest player of all time. I mean, the guy never lost a championship game. He won 6 finals. It was interrupted in the middle by a brief stint in trying out baseball. He has a plethora of records. He has a competitive spirit that's probably unmatched in the history of the game. And he's been the only person, I mean, he's never lost a final. But that's what's on paper. NBA, we're talking about 6-time NBA champion, 6-time NBA Finals MVP, meaning most valuable player every time he stepped on the court as in the championship NBA Finals. 5-time NBA most valuable player, 14-time NBA All-Star. I think the show is way too short to keep going, and that's what's most impressive about this guy. I could read you a laundry list, and we wouldn't get to everything. And he's probably the only player that there's not enough time to go through all of his accolades.
And he was somewhat vocal about his golf movie Space Jam. You know,
right.
It starts off with golf. He gets sucked into the hole and winds up playing basketball with the Looney Tunes.
Right. So, Michael Jordan is just, I grew up with him. Not literally, not around the block in North Carolina, but, I'm 52 years old, so I was in my 20s when he was winning championships and playing. And back then, you didn't have all of these different, ESPN or any of these other subscriptions. The only time you could see Michael Jordan was at 11 o'clock on ESPN and the highlights. All you saw was Nets and Knicks in New York. So we waited. We were in New York. We didn't care about the Bulls. Everybody waited for 11 o'clock because the guy was a human highlight film. And everybody knew also that golf intrigued Michael. Michael was a big, big golfer. And why? Because every great athlete, the only sport they can't play right away is golf well. They all can pick up every other game fairly quickly. And this infuriated him, and it was a big challenge. And everybody knows about his competitive level. And he was enamored by the game from day one. And the world knew it. He was not silent about it.
Yes. Now, Stephen Curry, since his NBA career started in 2009, Curry is only a 3-time NBA Finals champion and a 2-time regular season MVP. Many people think he is one of the best three-point shooters of all time. His three-point field goal percentage is over 43%. And Curry is part of Holy Moly, which is an extreme mini golf TV show that premiered in 2019. Curry played 2 rounds in the 2018 Korn Ferry Tour. And so because he's actually played professional golf, he actually had a profile page on PGAtour.com, and based off of that website, I learned that his average drive distance was 319 and a half yards, and he averaged 1.864 putts per hole, and his average overall score was 78.5. So Curry, unlike Jordan, has a little bit more experience with golf and professional golf, which is why today, using the handicap system, we are going to assume that they are the same skill level, and we're going to be analyzing some key characteristics of a great golfer, some of which are hard work ethic, ability to control emotions, patience, and touch. Jordan started playing golf while he was in college at UNC, and Curry started playing when he was around 10 with his dad. Curry played 3 years on his high school team.
William, before we start this, I have to tell the audience that I'm going through this as a mental exercise with you, but it's a ridiculous comparison. The statistics that you just shot out by Curry, and I'm going to prove it in these next number of minutes, the black and white nature of the two people as athletes as it relates to golf. And just hearing the statistics of Curry, I am excited to get going here.
We're going to start by analyzing the first 2 of those characteristics in the first segment. So the first is hard work ethic. So both Curry and Jordan worked hard to get to their top-notch NBA skills. And, Jordan, when he was younger, and his brothers, they wouldn't necessarily literally beat him up, but, they were much better at sports than him at the beginning, and that drove him to play hard, work hard, and eventually it paid off. He had eventually a few extra inches over them, and used that mentality throughout pretty much his entire basketball and career, and that's where he ended up at the top of the greatest players of all time list.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is absolutely true. I think that, Jordan's work ethic, it transcends even what we know as facts. I mean, anything we know is him as a human being. Michael Jordan's work ethic is well documented, as second to none. I mean, his competitiveness is one thing, but his work ethic is hand in hand with his competitiveness. His work ethic every single coach that's ever been around him, every single player that's ever been around him, The Last Dance that everybody's seen so much of recently, this guy was the first guy in the gym and the last to leave. This guy's work ethic it melded so well with his will to win that you couldn't tell the difference between work ethic and will to win. They were one and the same. The guy just was going to do, and he recognized everything that had to be done, and he was going to do everything in his power to do it. This guy was a guy that came into the league in 1984, and everybody knew him as a slasher, and everybody knew him as a dunker, and he was one-dimensional game, and he recognized that as a competitive athlete. And his hard work ethic came along when he noticed that they were just going to clog the middle. So what did he do? He needed to confuse them. So what did he do? For a whole year, this guy shot three-pointers, and this guy shot stuff outside the paint, and he was a threat. So talk about work ethic. In 1 year, he turned his dunking style into, really, you're going to clog the lane? No problem. I'm going to pull back and do a fadeaway jumper, and you have no idea what I'm going to do. And then also his work ethic was his physical size. When he was visiting and he was playing with Detroit Pistons, the Bulls could never get past them. Why? The Pistons were, with Lambeer, et cetera, they were the bad boys. With Rodman, they were a physical team. Jordan was still trapped inside a college body. He decided, I need to change that in order to win. So work ethic-wise, nobody lifted more than Jordan. Nobody got after the weights room more than Jordan, spent more hours. So as far as work ethic and hard work, I think it's probably unprecedented.
In The Last Dance, when they show Jordan during his time filming Space Jam, and part of his agreement to do Space Jam, they gave him his whole building with a court. He had all of the workout equipment. And during the summer, as he was just getting back into the NBA after his brief stint as a minor league baseball player, he invited guys to come and visit him, and they'd scrimmage at night after filming, and he would just do that every day for the entire summer because he was determined to get back and play hard.
Yeah, everything you're saying is the gospel, and everything you're saying is well documented, and it's there's something to be said about I've never heard another story like it, and that transcends all of sports. I haven't heard a Gretzky story. I haven't heard a Joe Montana story. I haven't heard a Jerry Rice story. I haven't really heard the plethora of stories that you just described about any athlete. I mean, even the most prolific athlete like Babe Ruth talks about coming home straight from the bars to a game at Yankee Stadium, right? Nothing like this. So you won't get an argument here.
And Curry was just 125 pounds as a sophomore in high school. That was when Curry needed to gain that extra weight and play even harder, and that's how eventually he found his three-point shot. Did you have anything to say about Curry's work ethic?
No, I don't know much about it. Nobody really talks about it other than the fact that, listen, the guy is one of the greatest of all time as well. The guy's, his prolific shooting, his captaining, one of the greatest 3 years of a sports franchise. How you have to assume he has a lot of that. It's just it's not as well publicized as, the Jordan Chronicles.
And this translates to golf because any golfer needs a hard work ethic to be able to practice enough days a week that you get good enough to hit the ball as far as Steph Curry, 320 yards, to be able to get good at putting, which in my opinion is the hardest part of golf, to sink, say, a 20-foot putt. All of that takes consistency and just a lot of hard practice, which both of those have. So next, we're going to get into their ability to control their emotions. Jordan was semi-famous for getting angry. I mean, the whole thing with with the Bad Boy Pistons, and he got angry at them, and that's what motivated him to get better, to put on that extra weight. But at the same time, when that translates to golf, that isn't going to benefit him on the course. In The Last Dance, they also showed a video of him. It was him missing a putt, and afterwards you could just see his reaction that, he probably had $10,000 on the line, but at the same time, he still got that frustration and anger, of whether it's a simple swinging of the club, of the putter, and just that ability to get out his emotions he was able to do in basketball. But when it translates to golf, it's not going to come out the same way, and it's going to come out not as great motivation. It's going to come out as rude and disrespectful to the opponent, to everybody that's around them.
So I think I like everything you said, right? And if you and I are talking today about Curry versus Jordan in a round of golf, in a tournament, I'm not as concerned about the etiquette part of being emotional or throwing his putter up in the air, etc., because that doesn't count on the scorecard, right? But what I like about Jordan that counts on the scorecard about his emotion and controlling, but you can't get into this guy's kitchen. This guy's kitchen is closed for the winter. This guy you're never going to psych him out, and he is a competitor through and through. And I think everything you just said that makes him emotional or makes him somewhat against the etiquette of golf is what's going to carry him through this match with Curry. And he's just one of those guys that just knows how to win, and he won't accept anything less than that. He's not going to get into the country club of his choice because of his etiquette, but I think it's going to help him prevail in the match that we're setting it up for.
And so, on the other hand, Stephen Curry, he started playing golf when he was a bit younger and was probably taught to be more well-mannered on the golf course. But there was one moment from, I think it was the 2018 NBA Finals, and I think he got into like a small fight almost. There was, I forget the exact play, but it was something, and that specific instance, I remember seeing it. It was probably on like SportsCenter the next day, and it just didn't seem like Curry, because usually he's very calm. He's just laid back, shoot a three, have it go in, and then moves right on to the next play. And in golf, I don't see him stressing out over a missed putt like Jordan would. And overall, that stress buildup, if Michael Jordan is able to take that out on a drive, well, it might go out into the rough. And if Steph Curry can stay calm, and if he has the ability to slam the ball 320 yards then on a drive, then he's looking good.
It is. I just don't know which I'd rather have. Which one would you have? Which one would you like to have? Would you rather have a guy that is cool, calm, and collective, or a guy that doesn't want to lose and can will that to happen?
Yeah. It could really go either way. All right, so let's take a quick break now, and when we get back, we'll keep on going, and we'll get into their confidence, patience, and ability to read the course. So rather than putting an advertisement into the first ad break on today's episode, I decided to tell you, the listeners, just a little bit about the background of this podcast and how it came to be. I was inspired to start the podcast from an episode of the Locked On Lakers podcast in May, and the host and one of his guests talked about Star Wars characters versus Harry Potter players playing basketball. I just took that idea and turned it into an entire podcast, basically. And I expanded it by adding new topics to it. So this week is Michael Jordan versus Stephen Curry playing golf. I'm not going to spoil next week's episode, but I got tons of episodes lined up for the next few weeks, at least, and I really think you're going to enjoy them. And so I do all of the work myself. I plan the episodes, I'm the host, I record them, I edit them, and I've been working on this for a few months now to get it ready, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get back to the second segment. So now we are going to keep on going and talk about more of their characteristics, including patience, confidence, and their ability to read the course. So starting it off with patience, both have enough experience with golf that they'll be able to wait. And, for Jordan, if he messes up a shot and if he's getting frustrated, when he takes it out, at least when it's not in a swing, it's calm enough that, he doesn't lose respect for it. Do you say that Michael Jordan is a bad golfer because he has a short temper sometimes? No. But is it definitely something that can be important on a golf course? Yes. And at the same time, he's not going to wait around for someone to win for him. He's going to get up and he's going to hit the ball and he's going to win it himself. And Curry, on the other hand, in 2014 when they won the NBA finals, he had not too much extra help. I mean, he had Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, but he didn't yet have Kevin Durant. And that's what happens later in, 2016 or 17, when Kevin Durant came along. And all of a sudden, come playoff time, he was being carried a little bit, and he was doing a little less work. And, when the time came, he gave off some of the extra work. And with Michael Jordan, some years, if he gave the ball to Scottie Pippen or Dennis Rodman more, they still could have won just as many games. He'd have slightly fewer points. But that's not who he is. He's coming around. He's going to go straight in and score.
Yeah, so as far as patience goes, I probably, it pains me to say it, but I probably give the edge to Curry here. I think he's a more patient player, and I think that probably serves him on the golf course. That being said, Jordan's going to come at you 24/7, and Jordan is not going to stop until he gets a W in the left-hand column.
Well, until he's in the plus in terms of how much cash he's won that day.
He's whatever it is, whether he's got to beat you for money or whether he's got to beat you for a ring or whether he's got to beat you for ego or in a scenario like you and I are painting today, he's going to beat you.
All right, so our next topic is their confidence. Both players are extremely confident, and that can be important in basketball and golf. And for instance, this year in basketball practice I was in, and we were shooting free throws, and I'm focusing on the normal things where my feet are, how I'm shooting, and my coach comes up to me and says, you gotta know it's going in. You gotta say to yourself, this shot is going in. And it's the same thing in basketball and golf. When I was playing golf last week, and I said to myself before every shot, this shot is going to be a good shot. Or for a putt, this shot is going in the hole. It just gives you that extra boost of ability to, it takes a little bit off the mental side, a little less stress, and you're gonna make a better shot. And so both Jordan and Curry are extremely confident. I mean, they have different kinds of shots that are all both hard, but that they're good at. I mean, Curry could come up from 4 steps in front of half court and nail 5 threes in a row. You know, he should be a Harlem Globetrotter. And Jordan, you know, he's not going to do that, but he's going to be able to get in, and he probably would score more points because, yes, even though Curry could nail all those threes, in game, you know, he only had that, 43 3-point percentage. And, you know, when it comes down to it, Jordan probably had higher, even though they were both confident. And the kinds of shots you take.
Yeah, so as far as confidence goes, I think that you can't get to their level in their sports, to the pro level, number one, but the best of the pro level if you don't have extreme confidence. It's just one of those requirements as an athlete that you can't get around. It's just, you can't obfuscate that point. If you don't have that, so we know they both have it, right? It's to what extreme, right? You take a guy like Jordan, and my argument for Jordan is, you know, he gives plenty of interviews where you've heard famous quotes from him saying things like, with the game tied or down by 1 or down by 2, I want that ball in my hands, right? And not a blow on LeBron James, but like there were a bunch of finals and a bunch of playoff games where he clearly did not want that ball in his hands in the final moments. Jordan wants that ball. Jordan wants that. He knows that he wants to have control of his destiny. He wants, and he's talked about this on so many occasions, whether he hits that shot or not, that's a lot of confidence to say that you might be the GOAT of that game or you might be the hero. But that shows you that on a golf course, he wants that opportunity to make that putt. He thrives in that area. And I like him because of it.
100%. And now we're going to analyze their ability to read the course. And so we're going to take that from a basketball perspective and the ability to read the floor. And in basketball, you're looking at where people are, because besides for the design and colors on every basketball court is the same dimensions, and it's all hardwood. So they're looking around for their open teammates to be able to pass, or to look for the open driving lane and go straight in and make a shot. And so Jordan was able to go right through them, while Curry, I read in an article on thecut.com, Curry has like this, not sure if it's a disorder or something, but it was something where he's like, something in his brain, he's able to like see things not before they happen, not like a Jedi in Star Wars, but just be able to analyze what's going on and to predict what will happen next. And I think that will really benefit him when it comes to golf, and especially putting. I mean, his average putts per hole is 1.864 when, every hole with par, it's you're supposed to average 2 putts a hole. So that's a direct translation of his ability to read the course. And then Michael Jordan, like I said before, he can go right through and find the lanes. But at the same time, he doesn't have that thing, at least from what I could find, like Curry, where he's able to predict things before they happen. And I mean, I don't have his average putts per hole, but I assume it's going to be higher, maybe in the 3-ish range.
Yeah, so this is one of those, confidence is one of those categories that, again, just to show that I'm unbiased, I would probably have, as it translates to golf through basketball, I have to give the edge to Curry. And because read the course. So like a catcher in baseball that sees the whole field, they play different positions. One of Curry's specialties, other than shooting, is he's the point guard. The point guard is the catcher in baseball. The point guard sees the entire court, and the point guard sees everything developing. I think that's what you were alluding to, I think, prior. He doesn't see the future happening, but he sees things developing, right? So I got to give that to Curry because that's his specialty. He's the captain, he's the catcher, he sees the whole field and he sees the whole court. The only thing I want to add as far as the ability to read the course goes as it relates to golf is that what I alluded to before in the beginning of the show, where Jordan's the best at adapting, though. And that has a lot to do with the ability to read a course. When you read a course, it's about adapting to the environment, adapt to the slope of the green, adapting to how narrow a fairway is, adapting to the wind conditions. And these are all adaptations. And Jordan, early in his career, he was willing to and able to adapt. Like we talked about before, whether it's he got his body bigger to combat the Pistons, or whether he got his outside shot more prolific. So he has a little of that. He has a lot of that. Saying Jordan has a little of anything is embarrassing. I think I give the edge to Curry here, only because of his position and the expertise that it brings.
Yep, I agree. So now we're going to talk about their concentration. Concentration, a little bit similar to work ethic. Michael Jordan, his priorities. And number one is winning a championship. But what comes before that? Making it to the playoffs. What comes before that? Winning in the regular season. And so then he realizes, well, how do I do that? And he puts in the work and he concentrates on what he knows he needs to do. And I mean, Curry as well has made it to the playoffs or made it to the finals for the last 5 years. They're eliminated this year, so well, but in those years that Michael Jordan was on the Bulls, when he did put on that extra muscle, he realized, why am I not getting as far as I want to? And he realized that if he put on some extra muscle, then that's going to help him win. And a few years later, they win the championship. Curry, who is able to concentrate, I mean, a 3-point shot when you're in practice, say it's just you in a gym, kind of similar to a free throw. You're going to take a little time, get ready and shoot. And in golf, it's similar. But when it comes to a game and, you've got half a second to get the shot off, there's that extra level of pressure that Curry can take, and Jordan for that matter. Though, say, practicing for Jordan, you don't slam through fake people on a practice court.
Yeah, listen, you get to a level like this in the NBA that you're like a perennial all-star in any situation. Concentration is just one of those key components, like trying to make chocolate cake with no sugar. I mean, it's just impossible to do. So,
Yeah. All right. And with that, we will go into our final break. And when we come back, we're going to dive into the risks they take, their competitiveness, and their touch around the greens. Are you looking for the perfect gift or party favor? Look no further than Tie-Dye by MS for custom tie-dye clothing and accessories for women, men, and children. You choose the style and colors, and they do the rest. They have lots of different tie-dye techniques to choose from that all look fantastic. And they have amazing low prices for their stunning items. For example, I'm on their website right now, and they sell cropped tank tops for just $12, t-shirts for just $15, kids t-shirts for $10, and hoodies for $30, as well as many other awesome items and clothing. Check them out on Instagram at Tie-Dye by MS, and you can visit their website www.tiedyebyms.com. Again, you can check them out on Instagram at Tie-Dye by MS and visit their website at www.tiedyebyms.com. All right, now that we are back, we're going to talk about final characteristics, starting it off with their risks and what kinds of risks they take and the benefits that come out of those risks. So Michael Jordan, he took closer shots when it came to risking his health. I mean, those are definitely more dangerous at the beginning of his career when he had that foot or ankle problem. It's one or the other. And, when the doctors said he had like a 10% chance to never play basketball again if he re-injured it, he said, I'm going to keep playing. He didn't stop. He knew what he wanted, and he knew what the potential downsides were. But in that case, it was a risk that was well worth taking, and he ended up benefiting from it. However, Stephen Curry takes deeper shots, and while Jordan's field goal percentage was probably very high, Steph Curry's three-point field goal percentage is under 50. It's only 43, and I mean, I say only, but it's still a lot for a three-point percentage. But when it comes down to the risks he takes, Michael Jordan might still be scoring more points than him in the game, even though he's taking a shot that's worth 50% more.
Yeah, so as far as the risk, profile of both players, I'll talk about Jordan for a second. I think that number one, I think that no great athlete can achieve on a golf course or a basketball court without wanting to take that risk. And Jordan has been storied in this department where he has been well documented that he wants to take that last shot. He doesn't care whether how awful it makes him look. He wants that ball. He wants to take the risk, and he wants to do that for the greater good of the team and the greater good of his, of himself and, his own benefits. So like on a golf course, Phil Mickelson comes to mind, right? Phil Mickelson was chastised for a lot of his golf career for going for too much, right? For not understanding the risks, but he had that competitive spirit in himself where, like you brought up, the foot injury, right? That happened in his first year where, I don't know, where does risk start and where do the lines get blurred with competitiveness? I don't know. I'm not really sure. But I do know I want to push that guy on the floor, and I want that guy out there for me. And, like Gretzky said, I never made any shots I didn't take, right? Don't you want your guy to make that shot or try? Because, my college coach once said, I'd rather have errors of commission than omission, right? You want to push that guy out there that's going to try that shot. Jordan's on the side of a green. He's got to hit this impossible flop shot. Guess what? He's going to try it. You know why? Because at the other end of that rainbow is that pot of gold where it works. And he knows if he doesn't try this shot, that he's not making 4 on that hole. So that's what I love about him in this case.
Yeah, all right. Moving on to their competitiveness. Michael Jordan, competitiveness. We've said it all day. 10 out of 10. I mean, there's not much else you can say to that.
Is there somebody bigger? Like, I'm a reasonable guy. Give me a guy that's more competitive than Michael Jordan.
I mean, Tom Brady did cheat to win a championship.
I didn't say cheat. I didn't say competitiveness.
Yeah, compared to Steph Curry, he's a smaller personality. And for the most part, when you're a star in the NBA, it's not going to come back to benefit you necessarily unless you mess up. And the only time Jordan messed up was when he went to play baseball, really. He just got in there, did his job, and was vocal about it. But for the most part, he was able to turn that into positive energy that helped his team. Steph Curry, I mean, I've never been in the Warriors locker room, but he doesn't come out to me, at least, as being that extra vocal guy in their locker room. I don't know specifically who would be, but literally vocal. He's always got his mouth guard in his mouth. I mean, it's hard to yell at someone while you got this big chunk of rubber in your mouth. And it just all adds up. And I think Jordan is straight up a lot more competitive than Curry.
Yeah, well, listen, if you read the Jordan rules, right, that I read in the 90s, the book, or you're not an extreme Jordan fan like I am, you know less. But I think after this Last Dance came out, I think the whole world, the cat was out of the bag. I think the whole world learned that of just the length of his competitiveness. It's unprecedented. I mean, this was a guy that in practice, if you watched all 10 episodes, this is a guy in practice that treated it like a game. And he knew that he had to get all over these guys in practice, joking around, to get them to a level where they could help him. That's the guy I want on that golf course. And that's why I'm advocating for for him defeating Stephen Curry on a golf course if all things were equal using the handicap system. Like, he just has this will to win. You know, they have that sign at Notre Dame that everybody touches, the football team, right? Play and act like a champion, or play like a champion. And it's almost a culture that, again, I just don't see how anybody in the whole world can make an argument for any human being over him under the category of competitiveness. And anybody that tells me in sports, including golf, that it's not a key component in willing to win. Look at Joe Montana. Joe Montana was not the most physical specimen. He wasn't the greatest scrambler. He didn't have running back qualities. The guy just knew how to win. And I think that there's a big argument to outcome in sports as it relates to competitiveness. And I think Jordan is at the top of Olympus under that category.
Totally. And on to their touch around the green. So this is, maybe you're in a bunker right next to the green, or maybe you're a few yards in front of the green and you're just trying to use that pitching wedge or sand wedge, get it up on the green and close to the hole, and hopefully set you up for a one putt. So we're relating this to just general touch and in basketball. So that's Jordan making crazy athletic plays and then getting the shot in, whether it's a layup or some form of a jump shot. And for Curry, that's being able to nail deep threes and from ridiculous range, have the precision to make seemingly every shot go in, it feels like. these are two players that are so good at what they do inside of the game of basketball, and both of them involve touch.
Yeah, it's no secret throughout this entire podcast that I think overall I like my guy, but that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to concede points, and I feel like I have during this podcast. This is one of those other ones. I think I have to concede to Curry. I think that his mere position on the court and his touch around the 3-pointers and as a pure shooter. Jordan's not a pure shooter. Jordan's a shooter when he needs to be and when it calls for it, the situation. As far as touch goes, I got to give this to Curry. Curry's going to pick up strokes on Jordan around the greens. And I know, as every golfer does, that that's where wins and losses come from. They come from putting and they come from touch around the greens. Although I'm not willing to concede the match to Curry because I just think Jordan's going to will the win. I do think Curry is going to pick up a bunch of strokes around the green, and I think that his touch is in a more deft way than Jordan's, and he's going to pick up a bunch of strokes, and a bunch of golfers would say, well, based on that, like they used to say in lacrosse, ground balls win ball games. Show me who picks up more ground balls, and they win ball games. Golfers, if Jack Nicklaus was posed this question, he would say, no. Somebody who has amazing touch around the green against their opponent is going to win every time. They just haven't met Michael Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm thinking about touch around the greens, I'm thinking of, I think it was the 2005 Masters when Tiger Woods had that famous shot. He was like past the green, hits it up, and then in a crazy slant, and it comes all the way back. And just at the last second, it looks like it stops, and the crowd's going wild because it was such an amazing shot. And then it drops in, and it's just a really exciting moment. And that also comes back to the ability to read the course. And when you can combine those two together, you can create something that's really, really dynamic.
Yeah, to conclude, I think that I would encourage everybody listening to marvel in Curry's game, but to bet on Jordan.
All right, that's going to do it for the Substantiate podcast today. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. And don't forget to come back next week for another new and amazing episode. Again, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at substantiatepod. And you can visit our website, substantiatepod.com. Also, you can send us an email with questions or comments to substantiatepod@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to this episode of Substantiate. The best way to help support the show is to, number one, tell your friends about Substantiate. That is the number one way to support us. The second way is to leave us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or Podchaser. Number 3, follow us at SubstantiatePod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health analysis of comic book characters.
So check us out at capesonthecouch.live and across all social media platforms at Capes on the Couch.